This was all on my own time. I
Wow.
was not getting paid for this. This was volunteer hours outside of work. This was all on my own time. This was me giving back. This was STEM, science, technologies, engineering, and math. This was giving back to the next generation.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. I'm so excited to have you here today. A smidge about me. I absolutely love the power of plus one, the power of networking, the power of at the end of every business networking phone call that you have, just say, hey, who do you know that I need to know next? Or showing up to networking meetings and being able to just be a light in the room and like pouring out all the goodness that you have and then asking them the same question like, hey, I know a guy that I think you should know. I absolutely love showing up to be the gently like the dumbest person in the room. I want to be the one that just shows up as a sponge, and I want to take it all in from everyone else and be able to pour out as much value as I can. And with that, it ends up introducing me to some of the coolest people I've ever met. And that's who I like to bring to you on the show, are some fantastic people and their stories and their journey where they're at. And that's exactly how I met Julie today. So I'm so excited that you have come on the show. I'm so happy to talk to you about a couple of really cool things. And do me a favor, welcome, but tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're up to right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Tiffany. I'm Julie Strickland, and I am a former spacesuit engineer, and I love to inspire and inform. As a prolific inventor, I have several patented systems that are going to be used on the moon and Mars one day. And I want to teach other people how to innovate to make the world a better place and to make us a multi planetary species. So, yes, I have two different missions in life, but they work together and form the basis of my business, Strawberry Innovation, which I have written the book, The Practical Guide for Innovators. And I am coaching one on one innovation, teaching people how to get patents, whether that be a good idea that they already have or teaching them how to find a problem worth solving. Told you before that strawberry represents a good idea. You have to pick it at the right time because if you pick it too soon, it's sour. Pick it too late, it's rotten. You got to get it right when it's juicy, when the timing's right. And innovation's not a straight line, it's curved. So there's other reasons why I love the strawberry. But whenever I say strawberry, it represents a good idea.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting because near and dear to my heart, the land of space, the world of space, and that we have the ability to just leave our planet and go to other planets, and the fact that there's life out there and just really cool things. I'm so excited to have you on because you are a drop in a lake that creates this ripple effect with how you're influencing people around you. And I love that in the business world because you are making such a big impact and your heart about it. Not to mention you're super cool. So do me a favor. Let's do this. I want to start from the very beginning. I want to like hear your whole story in this. Tell me, like, where are you from? Like, where did this all start? And what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Well, I love that question. I have two older brothers, and they raised me on a steady diet of science fiction. So, Star Wars, Star Trek, Asimov. My brothers would say, here, read this book so we could talk about it. And then, of course, they had the remote control. So, I would watch Star Trek with them, obviously. And so I was raised believing that one day we are going to go explore the stars. And whenever I got older, I realized that wasn't happening. Yeah, I said, well, I need to be part of the solution. Spoiler, my dad and both my brothers are engineers. So I knew that I could be an engineer. No one ever told me that women aren't supposed to be engineers. So I just went for it. But first, I decided I wanted to be a journalist so I could travel the world and learn a little bit about everything. So I attended Texas Christian University as a journalism major. And after 2 semesters, I got an MRS degree. Are you familiar with the MRS degree?
No, tell
That's
me.
when you get married instead of getting an actual degree.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
fell in
get you.
love, dropped out, got married, had a couple of darling children. And then when I was faced with my divorce, I said, I can't raise two children on a secretary's salary. That's just, and I was bored at work, quite honestly. So between needing funds and needing to inspire my children and show them it could be done and being bored, I said, I'm going back to school. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was take school one day at a time. The classes may suck, but just get through them and get that piece of paper so you can make the money. And I lived that. So I went to school at night and it earned an Associate of Science in Engineering from Austin Community College. Go Riverbats. And then one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was to quit my full time job and attend the University of Texas at Austin full time.
Mm.
They didn't have night classes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I did that. And thank goodness I worked hard. And 2 years, 2.5 years later, earned my Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering degree. And from there, I said, okay, how can I work in space?
Mhm.
And the closest I could find was Raytheon Company in McKinney, Texas, working on electro-optical infrared systems, which are airborne platform systems.
That's so fun that you like had this determination, this dream, little hiccup, right? A lot of a hiccup, and then cracking back into it and proving to your kids that, right, you just one day at a time to be able to go and do that. Oh my gosh, there's so much to like move into that. No, being able to go and then decide, all right, I'm going to get married and then have kids to hold on to that dream and still keep pressing for it. What was like the turning point for you other than, you said you're divorced, like to go back and commit to that degree? Like what was going on in your mind during that time?
Well, it was also Y2K, so the turn of the century.
Mhm.
It was one of at the end of every year, I look back and I say, okay, what went well? What really sucked? What can I do differently? And what do I want for the new year? So it was a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, basically, is what I do at the end of every year. And I write my New Year's resolutions. And my New Year's resolutions on January 1, year 2000, were to get rid of my husband and go back to school. And it was scary. I mean, all these changes all at once, but I knew that I was unhappy and I realized I had the power to change that. I had the power. And Tiffany, for the longest time, I was embarrassed about going back to school because age 28, going to college, that felt too old to me because it felt like something an 18-year-old should be going to college, not a 28-year-old. However, once I got there, I found out that there's lots of people who go to school that old. There are people who go to the military first, people who go on sabbatical, people who have medical issues. There's so many reasons why people start school late. So here's another piece of advice for our listeners. It's never too late. Go back to school, start the project, change your life. You have the power to make tomorrow the life that you want. What do you want your life to look like tomorrow?
100%. I believe in that. And even like I'm 41 now, my husband's 41. He's like, is this what I want to do the rest of my life? I'm like, I don't know, go to school, figure it out. Like I'm just always like pie in the sky, like let's start a new business. Let's do something. So absolutely for those thinking like, no, I'm too old. No, not at all. You're too old if you tell yourself you're too old, then but we're telling you you're not too old. Just
That's
keep
right.
going. So listen to us. Oh my gosh. So you go back to school and did it happen right away or how did you get the job from school to go work for Raytheon?
Yes, absolutely. So I had a female boss, Brenda, and Brenda, whenever I told her, look, I was again all embarrassed that I was older and graduating, and I was kind of stuttering during the interview. And she said, I like that you're older. That tells me you're focused. That tells me you're driven and that you're going to work harder than some child who just graduated whose parents paid for the degree. So she said, you shouldn't be embarrassed at all. And then I said, well, one of my last jobs was daycare worker. Yeah, I had an in home daycare. And she said, you mean you ran a business? You mean you set up all this, was an entrepreneur and you dealt with parents. And then she said, you know what? Dealing with other engineers is sometimes like dealing with children. So she said, you're going to
We'll
do
cut
great.
I'll let you cut that out. No. They are. I mean, I know. I'm a big baby sometimes too, like, 'cause you're either too far away from the problem or too darn close to the problem and need to have someone come in and almost parent you, right?
Absolutely. Parenting skills are transferable. One of the best books on communication I've ever read was by Adele Faber and her co-author. It was How to Talk So Children Will Listen and Listen So Children Will Talk.
Yeah. I think you were the one that was, like, telling me to read that book, and I have it in my, like, saved cart so that I can go
Oh,
do it
that's awesome.
in the middle of a 4-year-old right now, so it's like,
Good luck.
we need all the luck we can get when we're in the toddler age. Oh my gosh. Alright, so you get yourself over, you've got this incredible interview, you start working for Raytheon, what happens next?
Well, I worked at Raytheon for 7.5 years. Again, electro-optical systems, other very cool systems. You know, the Predator drone that flew in Afghanistan?
Okay,
The
I think a
drone?
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the big drone. It has an eyeball, and that is the multispectral targeting system, MTS. And that is a gimbaled system full of cameras and other electronic packages. That's what I worked on,
Oh, fun.
amongst other things.
Yeah.
And because I felt like I was behind and trying to make up for lost time, I said, okay, I've got to have a clear career path. It wasn't enough for me to be an engineer. For some people, they would have been like, okay, I'm done, check that box. But for me, I said, what's the next step? And so I decided I'm going to be a tech fellow. Being a technical fellow is the peak of engineering at Raytheon, the peak, the elite. Only like 2% of the population ever get to that level. And I said, well, even if I don't get there, I'm going to try. So I got the application and I start using it like a checklist. And one of the things on the application was innovation.
Ooh.
They want their tech fellows to have a patent and to show that they've made something new that nobody else has ever thought of before. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. So fresh out of school, I start looking for opportunities to innovate. There's an innovation challenge where they say, okay, we want to do this, come up with an idea. I came up with an idea. I met with a team member. My team member made it better. Do we have time for this story real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the challenge was measure a driver and, you know, tell me if they're going to fall asleep or if they're having a cardiac arrest or something. So I said, okay, what does a driver touch? Driver touches the steering wheel. So if we put sensors on the steering wheel, then we can have those sensors talk via Bluetooth to a laptop in the passenger seat and monitor all the physiology. Okay, obviously, this was years ago before these things became popular, right? I'm pointing to my smartwatch. And so I had that idea and then I thought about it some more and I said, well, what about a t-shirt? And so it was Hold On was the steering wheel version and Plain White Tee was the t-shirt version of these sensors embedded fabrics. And so then I invited a young person, a junior engineer to innovate with me. And Charlie Cliff looked at me and Charlie said, what now? You want to have the sensors send data to a laptop? He said, why don't you just use this? And he held up his cell phone and he's like, why don't we just make an app? And of course, that was the obvious answer. But back then, I didn't think about apps. You know, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
before there was an app for everything. But because he was so much younger than me, and I say that because I believe in diversity, I
yeah.
believe in getting people from different backgrounds, different ages, different experiences, different educational backgrounds, because everyone brings something to the table.
Mhm.
And so Charlie and I worked together. We won the innovation challenge. We went to the big regional workshop. And there I met another person who said, "Oh, using that sensor technology, we could embed it in headphones. And then air traffic controllers who are falling asleep, we can wake them up."
Yeah, yeah.
And so that became the basis of my first patent. Not Hold On, not Plain White Tee, because, oh, by the way, Toyota already had their version of Hold On.
Mhm.
It was SmartSet, the embedded sensors in ear cuffs of headphones that became my first patent.
Wow, that's incredible. And I mean, ATC could use all the help they could get. That's like near and dear to my heart is the space, flying field of it. Because all my friends, they graduated, and here I am. I dropped out, and I was like, let's go real estate. So yeah, like keep all those guys alert and like the quantity of the processing power that they're doing. I'm sure they need a nap every now and again.
Oh, yeah, well, I'd fall asleep if I was bored sitting there sitting looking at a radar screen,
Yeah, 100%.
but you
Okay.
are successful in your own right, Miss Tiffany.
No, my stuff's fun, right? Like I paved my own path in the path that I decided to go down, but I love being able to hear out all the amazing things that people are doing, which is why this show was invented. Like I did not realize in my own little quiet bubble that I was in real estate that people like Julie are out here inventing things that someone had to make come into existence that is going to better the lives of every human, that it's going to be just like the impact is just so incredible. And that's why I thought this show must exist so I can tell more people about all the cool people that I lived in a bubble. Like I had no idea that this is something that needed to be invented. And now they probably can't even imagine it not being there. It's just the way it is. So that way we can keep an eye out and make everything better. Anyway, so tell me, okay, so you do this, you get you won the award, you and your partner, to be able to go into this. You were there for 7.5 years. Is there something that's like stirring within you? Like you checking off all these boxes to become the top 2%. Tell me more.
Which could be a form, could be a website form, could be a PowerPoint package. Submit that, and then the patent review committee decides whether or not to file a patent, may come back with questions, may not. Anyways, there are all these steps that I had to learn along the way. And so I started writing down the steps and documenting because I love to write, ex-journalist, right? So documented all that. And then whenever I went to my next job, I was teaching other people how to do this, and then ended up in space in California working for Northrop Grumman satellites, working on satellites and other cutting edge technology. Got involved with some innovation labs out there and going into the labs and prototyping. That's my happy place. I mean, mechanical engineer, of course, that's my happy place. And then from there, I went to Collins Aerospace in Houston, Texas, and started working on the next generation spacesuit
Wow.
for 4 years. And my brain just exploded with ideas
Right.
because I'm going to oversimplify this, but if you take a toaster to the moon, well, there's never been a toaster there. So if you modify it for that environment, then it is a new thing and that is patentable.
Okay. Okay. I see that.
I mean, not that, any of the astronauts want to make toast whenever they're in the spacesuit, but that's just a fun
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
And so I started coming up with ideas, and I seriously would talk to different engineers that were my friends and coworkers and say, "Hey, let's just get together and brainstorm." And through doing that, again, I developed steps and I've documented ways of looking for problems worth solving. And I say that very carefully because if you come up with a great idea and it's not solving a problem that's useful, then nobody wants it. For
Right.
example, I had this idea, which now is a little bit silly, so go ahead and laugh, but to have an umbrella over the astronaut to reflect some of the extra sun.
Mm.
Because in the spacesuits, it gets up to 200, well, on the surface of the spacesuit, 250 degrees Fahrenheit down to negative 250 degrees Fahrenheit in low Earth orbit.
Oh,
So I'm not talking about the moon, I'm talking about on the International Space Station. So I said, well, we've got all these cooling systems, but if we had an umbrella that was like a parasol, then it would reflect some of the sunlight, and then the cooling systems wouldn't have to work as hard.
mhm.
And then one of the other engineers said, well, you're going to want a working fluid to pump through it to transfer the heat from the spacesuit to the umbrella.
Yeah.
And then it got really complicated.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
said, I was really just talking about a reflector. And they're like, well, how is that different than the spacesuit itself? So, anyways, there were some ideas that didn't go very well, but
Yeah.
you can see where just learning one little fact, like the temperatures,
Mhm.
leads to, well, why don't we do this? And then you got to look for a problem worth solving because we've already got the temperature thing nailed. We understand how to work on that. So we don't need an umbrella. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So look
But
for
I
a
mean,
problem.
if it could make the spacesuit lighter by not having to carry the weight of what it would need to keep it cooler, it could just keep it warmer, then
Mm.
that could just be a separate entity to because it's all about the weight of everything that you take up there. It takes the amount of fuel. So really could be having a cost like this is me. I love to banter ideas. Like I don't innovate, but necessarily see the vision of some of these things and why and how and to, I guess sell it to the other side. Maybe that's why the salesperson in me comes out. I'm like, let me sell it to you. Why?
These conversations are so fun, and you see why I kept doing it and kept getting different people involved because then we could have these fun conversations. I was trying to do this every week for an hour with my different colleagues. And so, yes, now I have a portfolio full of awarded patents, and there are actually some patent applications still in the pipeline. The US Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, they take years to review patent applications.
Wow. Wow. I mean, imagine some of the cool stuff that's come out. There's like a line now for people to get all this stuff reviewed and put it
Mhm.
on lockdown to prove it's yours, right? So, I'm like, so you're doing all this stuff. At what point were you like, I want to do more than just work for these guys and do all of this? I mean, you're kind of giving them the rights to some of the stuff when you're reviewing it as an employee through them, giving them all of the stuff and they're applying for the patent for you.
Yes, I've got two ways to answer that question. I'm going to briefly address the fact that they own the patents. I would have lost my shirt on some of these ideas because I said it's going to make $1 million. And I was all gung ho, willing to quit my job and invest all my money into some of these ideas, and then found out that somebody else had it patented. And so I'm so glad I didn't. So the big company, yes, they own the idea, but they also own the risk.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, that
keep
makes a lot
that
of
in
sense.
mind. And also, a patent is a piece of paper. It's only as good as its defense. So if I had a patent for something and you made it, I'd have to sue you to get you to stop making it. Well, now I need lawyers and I need visibility on what you're doing. So letting a big company worry about that just alleviates that stress from my life and alleviates the cost from my bank account.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the big company owning those ideas. I got to work on them. They gave me a little check as a thank you bonus. That's enough for me. But the other piece of that is, yes, I'm in this big company and I'm teaching junior employees how to innovate. They actually we developed, and I was on the first group of this, so I can say we developed this program called the Technical Accelerators Program, where we paired one mentor with four mentees to teach the innovation process. And the first couple of years, it was just like, all right, you're paired, go. And the mentors were like, wait, what are we doing? Just find an idea and get a patent. Okay. So the third year I took over as director and I started instituting formal processes
Yeah.
where first you look for a problem we're solving, and I developed the curriculum for that. And then you go forward with that. You go with the ideation and develop the steps. Oh, Tiffany, I want to be very careful for your listeners. This was all on my own time. I
Wow.
was not getting paid for this. This is volunteer hours outside of work. And I'm very clear about that because if the company had paid me for that work, they would own that intellectual property, just like they own those patents. And again, I'm okay with that. I know where the line is. They did not pay me, however, for this innovation work. This was all on my own time. This was me giving back. This was STEM, science, technologies, engineering, and math. This was giving back to the next generation. And because
Mhm.
the intellectual property lawyer reviewed it, Dan Barbieri, thank you, and approved it for publication, saying there's nothing in there that it belongs to the company, nothing proprietary.
Wow.
Yes, I hope I didn't belabor that point, but I want to make it
Yeah,
very clear to
that's
people
good.
that you can't steal from the company. I did not steal from the company. It was all my own work and my own labor of love. And that's why I made the book, was to help the next generation of engineers learn how to innovate.
This is this is so exciting because you spent your off hours, non-paying time to create something, but also I can feel that this is where your fun zone is, right? Like you live
Mhm.
to create these SOPs and figure out the way that things should work. And that way everybody else can step into a step in a process and be able to not feel so lost. And there has to be everybody out there to invent this stuff up. So the people that are a little bit like, oh, let's just float over here and let's float over here. And you get one person assigned to four mentees, right? Like, let's just have a meeting, right? I love that you've channeled that energy to be able to provide something that's concrete, and now you've published it and bringing it to people. This is where I like to ask people, like, all right, I could see why this is so fun and this is so cool, but why do you keep trying so hard? And why do you keep showing up to continue to do stuff like this? Because now you've published it and you're making this available for everyone else to have your ideas.
Because there's more work to be done. There's more people to be taught. And can I talk to you about the series? This is an unveiling. This is the first time I've talked
Yeah.
about this in public.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I'm like, what are you doing now? But what are you doing later? Like, we're going to talk about all of it.
So I wrote this, I tweaked the book. I actually published it in October and then tweaked it because I went back and read it and I said, "Ooh, I want to move this here. I want to add this, just little tweaks." So that became the second edition. And I realized we needed a workbook. So the workbook has all the juicy questions that are in the chapters already, but they're broken out with white space so that inventors can go along and actually write the answers to the questions. They're extra juicy questions. They're extra examples on how to work through some of the questions that involve math, for example, for the return on investment. And that is coming out later. This one's coming out in August. This one's coming out in September. And then the guide for leaders,
Oh, yay.
because talking to innovators can sometimes be challenging. We have a different language. We're focused on our invention. Uh, Another quick story. At my new job, where I'm research and development project manager, I met a couple of ladies and they said, "Well, I've got a good idea and it would save the company a lot of money. And I don't know why they just don't listen to me and do it." I said, "Okay, how much money?" And they were like, "Well, I don't know, a lot of money." And so I sat them down and I asked them the juicy questions and I worked through the math with them. And one of these ladies, $250,000 in 1 year, we could make the company. The other lady, 343 million.
Well, there we go. They might listen.
Yeah, I went back and double checked the math. I was like, "Are you sure? You're telling me that just making this little software add-on to this ordering program is going to allow the team to be so much more efficient that you can take more orders?" And get this, she said, not just the ordering part of it, but it's the warehouse part too, because they use the same software. $343 million. So
Wow.
I'm telling you that these questions can be applied to a lot of different situations and help a lot of different people innovate, not just to get patents, but to improve processes.
Absolutely. And then there could be uh, divisions of companies where they could just have somebody thinking about this stuff. My husband's one of these people. He goes into a place wherever he's worked and he's like, if they just did it this way and this way, and he's always trying to like make processes and procedures better. I'm like, well, why don't you tell them? And so I did. I helped him write it out one time. It was like he could save this much on this, and they don't care. It wasn't millions of dollars, but yeah, this is amazing that you've invented all this stuff, and this is so exciting that you're telling everybody about it now and that you're getting ready to launch in a few days, right? Coming up in August of 2025 for the first part of this. Yay, so exciting. And then the things that you're going to have, like, okay, people need to come find you. Where do you want people to come find you for all of this stuff? Because they're thinking like, I need to be in. I want to know, where do you want them to come find you?
Strawberryinnovation.org. That's strawberryinnovation.
Nice. And then, of course, if you guys aren't already friends with us on LinkedIn, friend us because you just send a
Absolutely.
quick message and that way you can take a peek in all of the things that she's posting on. And if you can't find her, come find me and I'll get you directly to anybody that you've seen on my show. Okay. This is so cool. I'm so excited that you are working on all of these incredible things that you're launching and that you've been able to create the original and then the follow-up workbook and then the one that's even better for the leaders. Oh my gosh, what the stuff that keeps carrying you through all of this is just so awesome. I love whenever somebody brings something that's so incredible to the world and the ability for them to just step into something that you've invented. What are you going to keep working on? Like other than your little launches of all this, like are you going to go on tour for these books? How does that look?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be speaking at the Ion in downtown Houston for NASA. It's called
Yay!
NASA Tech Talks. They're held monthly, and they have a speaker present for an hour and then take some Q&A, and then we network. You love networking, Tiffany. You should come. You should come to Houston for this one. So I'm going to do that, and I'm working with some amazing videographers at Creatopia here in Houston. We're putting together some speeches for that explain my book. So Lunar Innovations is the introduction to my book. So that will be dropping on YouTube, my YouTube channel at JN Strickland this week. And then I have some workshops that I put together, and we put together some video of that. So the moon mission workshop is takes participants through mission control. So the astronauts have landed on the surface of the moon and something goes wrong. How are you going to react? And so participants learn leadership and teaming skills. And I swear that there was an engineering manager who's been in NASA for 30 years, and she said she learned something about her own leadership style
That's
from
great.
this exercise. Yes. So that will be dropping. And I'm actually working on reading my book. And so it's not just an audio book, it's like this, it's a YouTube, it's going to be a video format with an audio component. So it could just be an audio book, but my son has been reading with me, and he is a very dynamic speaker with a lot of different voices, and so he's real fun to talk to. I mean, he can be just all sorts of impressions.
That's incredible. I love this so much. You're working on so many incredible things.
Thank
Tell
you.
me, let's do this. Because I know we have to go, but tell me like your one lasting nugget that you want to leave everybody with, because you've littered a couple of really good ones, and I'm so excited that we made it this far, and I'm so happy you guys have stayed this long into the episode, so that way you can hear all of the pieces that she wants to share. What's your favorite nugget that you want to leave with everyone?
Favorite nugget. Go for the banana. The banana story is a psychological story where there were some apes put in a cage with a ladder and a banana at the top. And when the apes would try to go up the ladder, they'd all get hosed with cold water. And so eventually the apes were switched out. And the other apes, so the new person would go up the ladder and the other apes would tackle him and say no, because they didn't want to be sprayed with cold water. So eventually all the apes were switched out, and all the apes, they didn't know why, but if somebody went near that ladder, they would tackle that person, that ape. And so the moral of the story is go for the banana. Don't listen to people who say, this is the way we always do it. Ask the questions, find out that hose might be gone.
Right. Oh my gosh, you're so right about that. This has been incredible. I'm so grateful that we met and that I
Thank
get to
you.
share your story here today. Guys, the show notes, everything is going to be below. Check it out and then go sign up for the stuff that she's doing. Follow her. And I am so grateful that you guys stayed. And I will see you guys on the very next show that we're going to release. And I will talk to you guys all soon. All right. Thank you,
Happy
everybody. Have a great
Unveiling.
day.